Hello, people. Welcome back. We are doing a talk. A lot of times we do these talks because we've had a series of, you know, series of readings with people, and there's themes that we see. So we're going to talk about something that has kind of been a theme for the last few weeks.
It's
And
like Boundaries Part 4.
yeah, it's like almost boundaries part four. And subscribe and like our videos and comment if you have a question, so that other people will benefit from your question. When we answer it, then everyone will see it, so it'll be good for everybody. All right, so we're going to talk about how to deal with toxic relationships. We don't say toxic people. We don't say that there's I don't like the term toxic masculinity, because it's not, the masculinity is not toxic. It's people that have forgotten that they're love. It's people who have forgotten themselves and are involved in a distortion of pain and suffering. And so that's what we're talking about. But I'm going to interview Persia for this one, because
Oh, you're in.
we have been suggesting people. We've worked with a number of folks who are leaving difficult and painful relationships, getting away from people who are very distorted and very harmful. And so that's what we want to look at. How do we deal with that? And
How do we recover from that?
how do we recover?
Our power.
I'll just say, for me personally, what got me on my path was having one of these super severely dysfunctional relationships that became very traumatic, and that forced me to finally look at myself and take responsibility for what I was choosing. And I didn't grow until I realized that I was choosing that level of pain and suffering for myself, and that the person was none of my business. What was my business is that pain and suffering was inside of me, and I needed to deal with me. And when I started to deal with me and do what Persia's talking about here in a second, then I started to make progress. So Persia, we talk about it as seal your vessel, which is different. There's another technique or another thing we talked about
Oh, that was an interesting
in a different video,
conversation.
one of the other boundary videos, where we talk about when you're angry at somebody and you're having a hard time
When you
with them
judge
bothering
someone
you.
and you're annoyed by
Yeah,
someone, or you feel competitive or resentment towards
we say
someone,
offer them flowers in your meditation until that dissolves. This is different. This is if someone is coming after you and you can feel their
somebody else
negative
is
energy.
misusing your
Yeah,
energy
they're after you and they want your energy. So
and
this
they
is
don't have any good intention towards you. You don't want to be sitting there offering them flowers.
so we are going to offer a different
A
technique for
different
this.
internal
Yeah,
practice. So, yeah.
go ahead.
All right. I'll just say that there's a lot of messages and thought leaders who are talking about this topic, and talking about it in a mental way is very different from doing it. It is good to try your best to practice, but this practice takes time. You can't just have an opinion or a belief about disconnecting from toxic relationships and then master it overnight. So this is a doorway and this is a commitment. And I would say that when I was about 18 years old, back in the 90s, I was reading a Buddhist journal, and they were saying that when you're surrounded by people who have great confusion and suffering, they said, keep your own counsel. And when I heard those terms, keep your own counsel, I remember thinking, how do you do that? That just resonated in my being, like, wow, how do you keep your own counsel? This is profound. I was having like a deep inner moment of clarity that this was something very, very strong and meaningful. And I think at the time I was looking around, like, who's practicing this? How is this really done? And I saw women in the age group of 40 and above as an 18-year-old. And I thought, wow, they don't mess around with people. They are like, they say what they mean, and they don't care if anybody likes it or not. And what I was seeing was a tough exterior and a a desire to protect oneself. And at the time, that was the closest thing that I knew and understood about what it meant to keep your own counsel. Now, my understanding of this is a step beyond that in terms of like complete mental disengagement and a lack of entanglement on an emotional level, which those women did not have. But I was so far removed from this practice of how to seal your vessel, how to keep your own counsel and your own inner stability. That's a journey. That's a commitment that takes ongoing inner investigation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. This is something I think I've held as a very deep treasure for a long time, and it took me years to understand. So one of the things that came up with clients this week, and we're going to steer back around to this, there's a deep, we have a lot of clients who are just a treasure to work with because they have deep, deep empathy. A lot of people we're helping out in the world even develop empathy, but this is a thing that is already going on with a lot of our clients, and they're feeling grief and suffering, not only in toxic relationships that they've struggled with, but also this esoteric or existential question: why does evil exist in the world? Why?
Well, before we even get to there, I think it's important to understand that there's like this two aspects that we see. We see people, I'm empathic and I am a doormat for everybody and I'm always trying to rescue everybody. And then there's the other side, which is I've lost my empathy and I'm just a tough person, and I just am able to like deal with everyone's crap because I'm tough and I'm stating what I want and I'm a taking care of my business. We're not talking about either of those two.
And or a combination.
Or a combination. That both aspects are very wounded way of working in the world. So we're talking about having full empathy, full awareness, without becoming tough and exterior, but
peaceful discernment,
being more peaceful, more loving,
calm, confident, acceptance.
That's the trick. We want to move out of that spectrum there, and we want to move to a different way of dealing with things. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the method for that in a minute. I'm going to roll back around to that in a moment. So this is part of the story, though, that I want to share because I haven't shared this before, and this was a direct experience. And when I heard these messages from the divine, because I was caught up in the story of like, why does all this evil exist in people who have harmed me or on a larger scale in the world? I had been trying to digest that question since I was 6 years old and started learning about the suffering on this planet. And that is something that if you're a person that loves, grief is going to be the other side of that. But as we step into our clarity and deeper into our love, we can even hold that with acceptance. We can even hold that with peace and clarity and not be rocked. That does take time. So when this topic came up and people were asking these big existential questions, that does steer back into how you seal your own vessel. This is what I shared, and I haven't shared this before, but I was obsessing over good, bad, right, wrong. And I was trying to reach a state of clarity, and I couldn't let it go. It was actually blocking me at the time. And this was just maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I kept having a hang up on this question because I kept having grief over the choices that family members had made. And I was projecting that grief into the larger story of the good and bad in society. And when I obsessed a little too much about it, the divine started talking to me in a kind of a download and said, well, two things happened. One was the Divine Mother came to me and she said, Who is the one that doesn't receive love? And I heard her voice in like a dream state. And then hours went by, and later the dream state got more intense, and she spoke again. It was the voice of the infinite divine mother. And she said, I will show you half of my love. I think she was joking with me. I'm not sure, because it didn't feel like half. And what she did was suddenly my consciousness blasted into trillions and trillions of galaxies. And I felt like in a split instant, I traveled across the expanse of the entire universe. She claimed it was half. I have no idea if she was serious or not, if this really was half. There is no way to describe what it's like to travel through that expanse of the universe. And what I gathered from this experience when she said, I will show you half of my love, and then showed me the entire, to me, what was the entire cosmos, the pain in my heart was so great. I actually felt like I was having a massive heart attack. And it was a lot to digest. And when I came back from that journey, I was in shock. My whole body was very deeply affected. And when I was digesting that message, which actually took me a long time to integrate, what I knew she was telling me was, there is nothing in existence that came from the singularity, the void, that I gave birth to out of that singularity. There is nothing in existence that isn't made of my love. That's nature isn't complete primordial love. I am in the body of every being that exists. And there is actually science that we could talk about to get into that, but what exists when you go into the smaller and smaller particles within the body is a plasma universe within you, is the primordial divine mother and divine father within every atom of your body. So she was telling me there isn't anything that exists that isn't love. The reason that complication exists down here, where we are perceiving reality in this physical phenomenal world, the reason that suffering and complication and great harm exists is only one thing, and that is that beings have forgotten what they are. Beings have forgotten that they are love, and all the lineages that we've studied, the main goal is to remember that nature within ourselves through the healing journey. So when she told me this message, it was a lot to integrate. It was a huge initiation and part of my journey. This does not happen overnight. I had already done a ton of work before that happened, and I went really deep after she gave me that message, and I was able to heal and find peace with my entire ancestral lineage and free myself from traps that were blocking me on multiple levels in my existence. And my experience of my being and my life here and my relationship to humanity. The other side to that is, after that message came through, that's where I got stuck, and I just kept saying, but why did people do this? And why do people do this on the global scale? Why did people do this and intend harm in people who I loved and witnessed wanting to be aggressive? Why would they do that? And another message came through after I was obsessing about it for several months, because I couldn't integrate this wisdom. And Spirit spoke to me again, the divine spoke to me, and they said, get over it. Drop it. Listen. The more you obsess about it, the more you entangle with it. All beings, as the Divine Mother told you, all beings are created in love. What happens is that when people experience trauma, and they were very specific, and I did not know this until they said it, they said the amygdala gets shut down. People have damage in the amygdala and they can't experience empathy. And that makes the foundation for them to do harm to other beings, because we're all here to remember and reawaken our heart and our empathy. Anyone can heal because it's already your primordial true nature, so it doesn't matter. But people have to choose it, and it takes immense courage because the journey's not always comfortable. So they said to me, drop it, get over it. Everybody's made of love. Some people are playing the role as a projection down here for all of us to go through a mythic story of good and bad. Some people have chosen to play the role in this lifetime as the perpetrator. And it doesn't matter. It's God's business. It's not your business. Stop trying to fix it. Stop worrying about it. Stop trying to even mentally figure it out. Let it go. So that is something that we talked about with some sessions this week that came up.
That's the foundation of understanding now why we're going to suggest this practice is that they are a being of love. They were made by the divine.
They forgot
Mother,
what
Father.
they are.
They forgot. So that's between them and their divine journey.
Especially due to the fact that if somebody's not choosing to heal, that's what they need right now.
Yeah. So our job is to not think about them and entangle with their energy and allow their energy to stay attached to us. So what we do now is that
the practice of sealing your vessel.
The practice is to tell your ego, because the ego delights in replaying the story about how we were a victim of somebody and how they betrayed us and they hurt us and they hurt. So we're out there talking about this bad person and how
thinking about it over and over and over.
Yeah, how it was so bad for us. That keeps you entangled. So what we're saying is that you tell your ego, that's a story, but we're not going to go into that now. That's God's business. That person is God's business. What we're going to do is we're going to take responsibility for ourselves, and we're going to focus on our own healing journey and finding the wounded story in ourselves that brought that wounded person into our life. So
there's a part of the child that needs some kind of the methods that we teach of integration of the child.
So we redirect, and that's why we give folks mantras. When we're asking somebody to redirect away from a negative relationship or experience or somebody who's trying to get their energy, we say redirect your own mind by doing the mantra over and over.
As a purification.
Yeah, so if that person pops up or a thought about that person or a thought about how you're a victim of that person, do the mantra to redirect your mind away from that person. And this takes time, weeks and months. Depending, and eventually this energy of the other person will be gone, and you'll be completely focused on what you need to do to reconnect to your own divine path and journey and light and healing, to move past that type of experience and having to replay that type of experience.
And this muscle gets stronger the more you practice it. When I first did it, I was trying to stop rescuing a sibling, and I realized that I was getting involved in something that wasn't my business. And I spent 5 months every time I started having the loop of like thinking about what I needed to tell them to fix their life. I was like, knock it off. We're not going there, ego. This is not your business. And at that time, I think I was in my 20s. It took me a long time.
It takes time.
When I was trying to practice it after a relationship that I had in my early 30s, I had this great archetypal relationship that had ended up giving me a well of clarity and self-empowerment when I made it through the other side. It was a very brief relationship, but when the relationship ended, I was actually I ended it quickly because I knew I didn't have a lot to learn, but what I did have to learn was very sacred and special. And there was a little hook left. Little hook. The work wasn't done. It came to mirror itself back to me. And so I was like, oh, I'm done with this relationship, I felt totally done. I felt total peace. And it was actually super easy for me. I heard my mind start thinking about the person's awful behavior. And I was like, hi, ego, I love you so much. We're not going to do that today. Move on. And it got easy. And it only took less than 2 weeks. at that point. And right now I can do it in about an hour or less.
Well, but again, it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, and I have had to do this practice with family members that wanted to keep entangled the relationship so that I would continue to fix them. And I even had family members tell me it's your
Directly.
job to correct me when I'm wrong and to put up with my bad behavior. And I said, no, it's not my job.
That person chose
You're an
not to
adult.
have accountability for actually changing the behavior and just repeated it for decades
So-
after being communicated with.
So they're my family members, so I have I have minimal contact, just checking in and how you're doing, that sort of thing. But I know I keep my own counsel. I don't share a lot, and I certainly don't take on any responsibility for helping fix things when they are talking about things. I just stay out of it. If they weren't family members, I would just move on, and there's not a capacity for a relationship there. So that's part of the growing journey, is to have acceptance of where people are at and know this isn't a person that I need in my life. I can move past it.
With most people, it's instantaneous. You're just like, oh, they're suffering. That's not my business. And you move on. It's very, very quick.
The goal is, if you learn this work, then God can bring loving, kind people that can support your spiritual growth. And you want to bring those people into your life. The faster you get rid of the people who are not supporting your spiritual growth and want you to be entangled in various ways, the faster you get rid of that, then you get to open up to this whole better, higher state of reality.
Because God will keep bringing you the lesson until it's integrated.
That's right. So it keeps showing up until you fully heal it.
And the last thing that I'd probably share is, I've said this before, but the Bhagavad Gita has a quote from Krishna, I think, that is better one's own dharma performed imperfectly than the dharma of another performed perfectly.
Performing someone else's dharma is very dangerous.
And then they make it clear that the point of that quote is that if you get entangled with trying to fix somebody that's not your business and that hasn't personally made their own empowered choice to grow and to develop and move forward, you are going to siphon off your own energy. You're going to block your spiritual path. You're going to block your physical energy. You're going to block your financial energy. You're going to block every aspect of the beautiful purpose that you have here, because you will be siphoning off your own energy. And it is dangerous. It can really take you down a dark pit.
So don't be afraid to clean house on your relationships and behaviors and things you're involved in that aren't supportive and loving. The more you clean house, the more new things can come in. For a period of time, it might feel very isolated, and that's okay. That's giving God time to bring new people into your life.
And that doesn't mean you have to end all your family relationships. If people aren't really intending harm, they're just kind of confused.
That's right.
Then you just kind of create more sovereignty, create more emotional and psychic and physical space to create your own individuation and stop entangling yourself with trying to figure your family members out. Just get to the business of healing your own inner core so that you know your true nature is divine love, so that you attract that to your life.
So thank you again for showing up and watching these videos. And if you made it to the end of this video, you're probably serious. So we are praying for you, and we are sending you a blessing. You can do it. This is tough work, but if you're here to evolve, this is the work you need to do. So we love you, and refer us to friends that you have that are serious. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.